When did you lose your faith in humanity? I used to volunteer at the Children's Hospital reading to kids during chemo treatments. There was this one boy, Santiago, maybe 8 years old, who'd been fighting leukemia for 2 years. He was this tiny kid with the biggest personality you've ever seen. Santiago had this ritual. Every Tuesday when I came in, he'd have drawn me a new superhero. This one's Captain Reading, he'd say, showing me a stick figure with a cape holding a book. He fights the boring monsters. The nurses told me I was the highlight of his week. His mom, Genesis, was always there, sleeping in that uncomfortable chair, working on her laptop between his treatments. She cleaned office buildings at night to pay for gas money to drive the hour each way to the hospital. I'd bring her coffee and she'd always try to pay me back. One Tuesday, Santiago seemed different, weaker. He could barely hold up his drawing. "Miss Jenny," he whispered, "I made you something special." It was a picture of the two of us reading together with "Thank you for being my friend" written in shaky letters. Genesis pulled me aside. "The doctors say we're out of options. Maybe 2 weeks." She was trying not to cry. "He doesn't know yet. I don't know how to tell him." That's when I heard voices from the hallway. 2 of the day shift nurses were talking by the vending machines. "Finally," one said, "room 314 will be free soon. I'm so tired of that kid's mom acting like she owns the place." The other one laughed. "At least we won't have to pretend to care about those stupid drawings anymore. I throw them out the second she's not looking." I couldn't move. These were the same nurses who'd been telling Santiago how talented he was, who'd been putting his drawings up on the bulletin board. "The volunteer reader too," the first nurse continued. "Such a saint, reading to the dying kid. If she really cared, she'd donate money instead of just showing up for the attention." When I walked back into Santiago's room, he was showing his mom the drawing he'd made me. "Look, Mama, I drew Miss Jenny because she makes me feel better." Genesis looked at me with tears in her eyes. "You've given him something to look forward to every week. I can't thank you enough." Santiago died 3 days later. At his funeral, Genesis handed me a box. Inside were dozens of drawings he'd made me that I'd never seen. On top was a note. "Miss Jenny, Santiago drew these at home every week. You were his hero." I realized those nurses had been throwing away a dying child's artwork while he spent his last bit of energy creating something to make others happy. They'd been lying to his face about caring while counting down the days until he was gone. The worst part? I saw one of those nurses crying at his funeral, accepting condolences like she'd actually cared about him. She even posted on social media about how heartbroken she was to lose such a special little patient. But here's what really destroyed me. A month later, I was back at the hospital with a new group of kids. I walked past room 314, and there was that same nurse with another sick child. She was holding up his drawing and saying, "This is amazing, sweetie. You're so talented. I'm going to put this right on our special board." I watched her walk out of the room and drop it straight into the trash can by the door, just like she'd done with Santiago's, just like she was probably doing with every single one. These kids spend their last days on Earth trying to make people happy, and the people they trust most see them as nothing but inconveniences to get through their shift.